lashing out at the Time Warner release of Batman Returns, calling for boycott. It's all over another company release, the music of rap star Ice-T. Heidi Kemp reports on the heated rap.
Hustler, word, I pull the trigger long.
Rap artist Ice-T is in hot water with police officers across the country. In his song, Cop Killer, Ice-T raps about a desire to murder police officers. The New York State Sheriff's Association is outraged and has called for police across the nation to boycott all Time Warner products and demanded that Time Warner pull the song from store shelves.
It has nothing to do with freedom of expression. It has everything to do with incredible corporate greed, with incredible social irresponsibility.
Executives at Time Warner refused an on-camera interview but did issue a statement which says in part, quote, "We absolutely deplore all the violence, particularly violence against law enforcement officials. Nevertheless, it is vital that we stand by our commitment to the free expression of ideas for all our authors, journalists, recording artists, screenwriters, actors, and directors." Outside Sam Goody in Manhattan, music lovers gave their opinions.
Not to mind, because it's really, we have enough troubles as it is without starting some more riots or whatever.
If it's their opinion that they want to kill police officers, then that's their opinion.
Some New York City transit cops told me they feel victimized by the song.
I think it's just going to incite more violence. Once you say, you know, cop killer or cop brutality, these people are going to turn around and start doing something like that.
I think it's just going to cause more riots and hatred against police officers. I think it's a silly verse. I really think they should do something more educational instead of about killing, because we have enough of that out here as it is already.
New York is not alone in its distaste for Ice-T. Police associations in Texas have already called for a similar boycott against Time Warner, and the governor of Alabama has requested that the song be banned from store shelves. In Manhattan, Heidi Kemp, Channel 9 News.
Ice-T called Cop Killer, a first-person depiction of black urban rage over such things as the beating by Los Angeles police last year of black motorist Rodney King. Last week, police groups in Texas called for a boycott of all products made by Time Warner, the conglomerate that owns, among other things, Warner Brothers Records, the label that distributes the new Ice-T album Body Count, on which Cop Killer appears. Now the New York State Sheriff's Association has called upon New Yorkers, perhaps unrealistically, to boycott the new Warner Brothers movie Batman Returns. In response to all this, Time Warner defends its right to produce films and records no matter how objectionable their content may be to certain groups. However, a major U.S. record store chain, Super Club Music, has now decided to pull Ice-T's Body Count album from all 300 of its Record Bar, Tracks, and Turtle stores in 19 states because of the Cop Killer track. And on Monday, rap forefather James Brown took a swipe at Ice-T during a visit to the U.S. House of Representatives in Washington, where Brown told Speaker of the House Tom Foley that he was, quote, "sick of all this cop-killing, anti-hope music." What does Ice-T himself have to say? Well, we ran into him at the new music seminar in New York City on Wednesday, and here he is.
The Body Count album, the enemies are racist parents, and brutal police. And if those are my enemies, then so be it.
Cop killer! Cop killer! Cop killer! Cop killer! Cop killer! What do you want to be when you grow up? Cop killer!
But it's not aimed at anybody else, and it's not done maliciously in any attempt to make anybody go out and commit a crime. Really, with the song Cop Killer, I'm saying is that they are so brutal, they are putting people to the point that people might want to go do that. And this particular guy in this character does. That's rapping in the first person, that's called a poetic license, and obviously these ignorant pigs don't know nothing about music.
By the way, one police organization that does not subscribe to any sort of Ice-T boycott is the National Black Police Association, whose executive director, Ronald Hampton, has reportedly asked, quote, "Where were these police groups when the police were beating up Rodney King?"
Off-store shelves. The song, written in response to the Rodney King incident, talks about police brutality. The governor and law enforcement agencies claim the song promotes the killing of cops. Ice-T was chosen as this year's keynote speaker at the New Music Seminar, and he chose the occasion to address his critics.
The enemies on that album are racist people, the KKK, parents, no matter what race you are, if you teach racism to your kids, and brutal police. And if those are my enemies, so be it, you know? I don't have nothing against all police. I feel that if the cops were a total, legit organization, non-corrupt, I probably would be a cop.
The finishing touches are being put on the exhibit booths here in the exhibition hall at the New Music Seminar. There are representatives.
Transworld and Sound Warehouse have followed the lead of the Super Club chain and pulled the Body Count album from their outlets. That makes a total of 1,045 stores where Ice-T's album is no longer available. All this in response to calls for a boycott of the album and all products from the Time Warner Company from police groups in Texas and New York. In fact, the Combined Law Enforcement Association of Texas says it will go to a Time Warner shareholders meeting in Los Angeles next month to hold a protest. Ice-T, of course, has not remained silent on all this, and just the other day he spoke exclusively to Fab Five Freddy of Yo MTV Raps.
If this record was so dangerous, it's been out since March, where's the rash of police homicides that it was going to create? Right now, if somebody were to get killed because of this record, it's not because of me, it's because of all this attention that they've brought to the situation. One thing that really bothers me is, what if the record was a call to kill cops? It's still not illegal. You dig what I'm saying? Because people get up and they call to kill people all day long. The Klan called for the kills of the murder of blacks all day long. There's people who want other people killed. It's not illegal to say what you want to do.
In fact, on Monday, the Supreme Court ruled that Ku Klux Klan cross burnings are protected acts of free speech. Meanwhile, so far it does not look like the calls for an Ice-T boycott are working. In its new issue, Billboard magazine reports that sales of Ice-T's Body Count album increased following the first boycott call. The New York State Sheriff's Association's call for a boycott of the new Warner Brothers film Batman Returns didn't seem to be working either. The movie set a one-day box office record by taking in $16.8 million on Saturday, and industry analysts predicted its three-day opening weekend total would easily top the $40 million earned by the original Batman when it opened.
To media conglomerate Time Warner, condemning the company's distribution of Ice-T's album. And even Vice President Dan Quayle has jumped on the boycott bandwagon.
It is wrong for a powerful, influential corporation like Time Warner to make money off a record that says it's okay to kill cops.
The growing flat began 2 weeks ago when Texas law officers called for a police boycott beginning July 16th of all products owned by Time Warner, including everything from magazines to amusement parks to movies like the mega hit Batman Returns.
You missed.
But media analyst Christopher Dixon says the boycott will be both ineffective and impossible to carry out.
To try to single out every single part of a company and to go out and boycott it for one small aspect is not only extraordinarily difficult, but I'm not quite sure it really meets the needs of those people who are particularly looking to protest the events.
With the proposed boycott less than a month away, Time Warner says it has no intention of pulling Ice-T's record from stores. As for the man at the eye of this censorship storm, he told us last week he remains unfazed by the impending sanctions.
As far as the police doing a boycott on me, I mean, I don't really have a problem with that because they never bought one of my records anyway.
Even though some stores have taken Ice-T's album off the shelves, it's still selling well, in fact, faster than when the protest began. The album is now number 62 on the pop charts, up from 66 last week.
It is a rite of summer.
Ice-T and his song Cop Killer, Kill White People, a statement made in an interview by rapper Sister Souljah. All at once, rap music made the cover of Newsweek, and it made the country's politicians sit up and take notice.
So what you're seeing now is some of the impact that is actually happening on mainstream America, where you have Bill Clinton, a presidential candidate, talking about Sister Souljah, who sold, until then, about 60,000 records. She still is considered a legitimate topic for him to bring up.
Sister Souljah claims presidential candidate Bill Clinton took her interview quotes about killing white people for him. It's nothing more than his point of view.
I don't like the police. Everybody knows I hate the police with a passion. They can kiss my ass, basically.
But a lot of people are listening to rappers like Ice-T, so it's got everyone on edge. Politicians, police, record companies, and retail chains. Some are advising boycotts. Some have other ideas.
What the cops need to do is listen and see why Ice-T want to put a record out like that. And maybe they'll learn something about their job in handling the people.
Those who use films, or records or television or video games to glorify killing law enforcement officers.
But wait, one of the president's biggest supporters, Arnold Schwarzenegger, blows away policemen by the score as the Terminator.
It does raise the issue of hypocrisy if you're going to, on the one hand, attack this kind of violence, on the other hand, campaign in New Hampshire and elsewhere with Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was himself a cop killer in his most recent movie.
Is it somehow okay to show cops being killed in movies or on TV, but not in a song?
The president is among the many who believe that pop music has some sort of diabolical force over the young people who listen to it, that it turns the people who listen to it into sort of, mindless zombies.
Ray Liotta plays a bad cop terrorizing Kurt Russell's character in the new film Unlawful Entry.
The tide has turned in the overall outlook and feeling of how society views the police officers that are supposed to protect the society.
Ice-T, who ironically played a police officer in New Jack City, says critics of his song misidentify it as rap, not hard rock. That's typical of opportunistic politicians, to Jonathan Alter.
Rap represents a world that they don't understand and are therefore more afraid of. A Schwarzenegger movie represents a world that they take their kids to see at the Cineplex. So in the minds of people who are upset about this, they're in two categories. If they thought a little bit harder about it, they might realize that there are all sorts of other examples of violence in the culture that they might speak out against.
George Lewis reports that what the company heard was not music to its ears.
Hey, ho, ho, Time Warner's got to go!
Many of these people are policemen from around the country who want Warner Brothers Records to yank the album Body Count off store shelves. The album by rap artist Ice-T includes a song called Cop Killer, which law enforcement officers say is an invitation to violence.
I'm out to bust some shots off. I'm out to dust some gas off.
The National Rifle Association, in full-page newspaper ads, blasted Time Warner. The NRA has also launched a letter-writing campaign against the company. Actor Charlton Heston, an NRA supporter and a Time Warner shareholder, joined the protest against the album, reading out loud some of its more offensive lyrics.
Die, 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 pig, die. Police, I know your family's grieving. Catchy little number, isn't it?
Other Time Warner shareholders were not so publicity conscious and were ushered into the meeting away from the cameras and the demonstrators. The company did set aside time for some of its critics to address the meeting. A few are policemen wounded in the line of duty who earlier spoke to reporters.
You don't understand what it's like when my 2.5-year-old son comes to me at night and says, Daddy, read a book. Daddy, read me the book. And I can't. Because someone hated police so bad that they took away my sight.
In spite of all the protests, Time Warner has refused to pull the album off the market. As a matter of fact, in cities where the protesters have been most vocal, sales of the album have increased. Ice-T has turned down most interviews about the album, but today Time Warner provided this video clip.
Don't go out and kill no police, it's just a record.
You heard it from him.
Counter-protesters supporting Ice-T said it may be just a record, but it is also an important expression of anger, which shouldn't be censored. George Lewis, NBC News, Beverly Hills.
Funded Jim Murray reports, although Ice-T is changing his album, he's not changing his tune.
Sales of the album Body Count surged following Tuesday's announcement by artist Ice-T that in the wake of police complaints, he is dropping the controversial track Cop Killer from all new copies of his record.
I'm going to pull the song off the record just to prove to them that it ain't about money and bring the actual song back to South Central where it came from. I will give this record away free at my concerts.
Meanwhile, one branch of a major music retailer reported selling more than 40 copies of Body Count in a single day.
Since everyone found out, everyone's been coming in, buying it. It's been outrageous.
In a written statement, Ice-T's record label said, quote, Warner Brothers Sire Records understands and respects Ice-T's decision to withdraw the Body Count song Cop Killer from distribution. In response to the artist's request, we will effective immediately cease manufacturing and distribution of the Body Count album as it now stands, and will replace it with a new version minus Cop Killer with amended artwork to reflect this change. The new album will be in stores within a few weeks, but police groups say that isn't enough. They want Time Warner to issue a formal apology admitting they made a mistake.
What I'm saying is, songs off the record, shut up. All right? That's what I'm saying. I'm not apologizing to them.
But one senior record industry executive told the Associated Press that Ice-T's decision sets a dangerous precedent which will encourage future protests to limit free speech. Several fans agreed.
There's going to be a lot of groups who are very active in censoring or attempting to censor artists' works. They're going to look at this and consider this a victory.
I don't believe it's right. I don't believe he should have backed down, but I can understand.
They have not won this battle. All I'm saying to the police organizations is that, come get me. Leave Warner alone. It ain't Warner, it's me.
You know why? Because I'm a cop killer!
If you think this album is something, you wait on my next album. You wait on the new album that's coming out, and I'm giving it back to them harder and harder. I cannot stop. This is the mission I'm on.
Jim Moray, CNN Entertainment News, Hollywood.
At the moment, the cops are in a criminal mode. They've waged a lot of death threats against Warner Brothers Records, people that work at WEA, and they threatened to bomb the record company. This was on Arsenio Hall. They told him that if he had me on the show, that they would not respond to him if he needed help. And this is criminal. I mean, if I tell you that I'm gonna kill you, I mean, these are people that are supposed to protect us, but when we threaten them, they show you exactly who they are. These are some of the most savage people you're ever gonna run into. Officially as today, I'm gonna make the request for Warner Brothers to take the song off the LP so that hopefully these gangsters will stop threatening those people's lives. It is not them, it is me. If you want to kill me, come get me. Why haven't I received a death threat? Because they know that they can't scare me. They know that I'm not afraid of them, I'm prepared to die behind them. They move on the company and say, never allow any black youth to speak this loud again in America. As of today, I'm going to pull the song off the record just to prove to them that it ain't about money and bring the actual song back to South Central where it came from. I will give this record away free at my concert. I ain't doing it for the money. Now, once we eliminate the issue that they're saying that this is for money, they still got to deal with the question, why did I write this record? See, I'm not apologizing. What I'm doing is dealing with their grief. They've made a big issue about this one song, okay? So really what I'm saying is, songs off the record, shut up. I predict that they attempt to shut down all rap within the next 3 years. Rap is being dissected, they're learning, they're listening, they're hearing what the brothers are saying. It's the only voice we got to send out this power. All we want is to be equal, all we want is fair treatment. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
So will body count albums containing the Cop Killer track simply disappear from stores overnight? Not likely. Warner Brothers Records says that it's advised its distributors that they can return copies of the album for full credit, but that they can't force any accounts to do so. New reworked versions of the album, minus the Cop Killer track, won't be ready for release for another 3 to 4 weeks. Meanwhile, police groups reacted swiftly to Ice-T's Tuesday press conference. Glenn White of the Dallas Police Association, which was the first group to mount a Cop Killer protest, said that, quote, with a guarded sense of optimism, we claim a victory. However, he added, quote, pulling the song is a veiled attempt by Time Warner to remove themselves from any liability. Dewey Stokes of the Fraternal Order of Police, denying that Ice-T's profit motive was ever an issue, said, quote, it's the lyrics that are objectionable. We're out there facing violence every day. Ramona Ripston, executive director of the Southern California chapter of the American Civil Liberties Union, expressed disappointment at what the organization apparently sees as Ice-T's backing down in the face of police disapproval. I'm really sorry Ice-T's bowed to that kind of pressure, she told MTV News. The core of democracy is to have all kinds of ideas expressed. Ironically, Ice-T himself will appear on the cover of the next issue of Rolling Stone magazine, out next Tuesday, wearing a policeman's uniform.
Just 2 days after pulling the song Cop Killer from his album after a national protest, Ice-T is back in the middle of yet another controversy. The singer is on the cover of Rolling Stone, and police are not happy about how he's dressed.
Tonight we get even!
On his record Cop Killer, rapper Ice-T sings about murdering police officers. Now on the cover of Rolling Stone, he's dressed up as one, complete with nameplate, badge, and billy club. And cops on the street don't like it.
I get kind of revolted, actually. This guy's taking advantage of police officers.
Of course it offends me. Number one, he didn't earn to wear that uniform or the badge.
Freedom of speech, right? He's got that right, even though I don't like what I see.
Poor taste or marketing savvy? Rolling Stone music editor James Hinkey says it's the perfect cover.
You know, we jumped on it. We got what is, you know, a fairly exclusive interview with the guy and got it out pretty quickly. So I think in that sense it, you know, it is a good Rolling Stone cover, and I think it's certainly justified by the news.
On Tuesday, Ice-T said he would reissue his Body Count album without the Cop Killer song because his record company, Warner Brothers, was being threatened.
All a record is an editorial. It doesn't mean Time Warner Brothers agrees with what I said, but now they're threatening those people, and that ain't cool. I would prefer for the threats to be made toward me.
And though not all record retailers have returned the rapper's Time Warner release, to one of New York's finest, it didn't matter.
I'm not buying anything from Warner Brothers.
Among the public, the Rolling Stone cover drew mixed reactions.
I approve of the fact that he's dressing as it because he's just not taking it as seriously as everyone else is, I think.
It's very sick. My husband was a cop, and I wouldn't want to see nothing like that.
But to San Diego Police Chief Bob Bergreen, the issue was simple.
I will fight to defend people's rights to freedom of speech and freedom of expression. I also have the right of freedom of expression, freedom of speech, and I have the right to express my outrage at what they've done.
Like it or not, controversy sells. Some stores report before the recall announcement, the Ice-T album was selling only 2 or 3 copies a day. Since the recall, sales have jumped to 40 or 50 at some outlets.
To pull the controversial track Cop Killer off his speed metal album Body Count, another noted hardcore rapper, Public Enemy leader Chuck D, has released a statement on the controversy saying, quote, "Someone's right and someone's wrong, and based on police treatment of blacks through history, I don't think Ice-T is wrong." As for his fellow rapper's decision to let the Time Warner Media Corporation off an increasingly painful hook by asking its subsidiary, Warner Brothers Records, to recall all current copies of his album and issue a new version minus the Cop Killer track, Chuck D said, quote, "Ice-T knows best." Also weighing in on this issue, rather proudly, was Vice President Dan Quayle, who on Wednesday had this to say.
I am glad that they did respond to my criticism, the president's criticism, the law enforcement officials' criticism over the past few weeks. I hope this establishes a precedent that companies like Time Warner and those that produce these types of records have a responsibility. They can't just hide behind free speech. They can't just hide behind the Constitution. I'm not going to get into an argument whether this was constitutional or not constitutional. I'll just assume that it was constitutional and there was nothing illegal. It was wrong. It was fundamentally wrong.
The Vice President of the United States, who, by the way, was the subject of a full-page ad taken out in the Washington Post on Thursday by the Hampton, the director of the 35,000-member National Black Police Association in Washington, D.C. Hampton, himself a 21-year police force veteran, has defended Ice-T's right to express his views about police, especially in the wake of the notorious Rodney King beating in Los Angeles, and has denounced police-sponsored boycotts of Time Warner and all its works. In an interview with MTV News, Hampton allowed us how Ice-T had every right to withdraw the Cop Killer track, but that, quote, simply because he removed the record, it's not going to stop police from beating people. The ultimate insult, Hampton said, is that Time Warner got death threats. Who do you think is making these threats? The police. Now that this is over, Hampton continued, are they going to start working to clean up police departments? Some individuals I work with, I'd like to shoot, and I carry a gun every day. We just don't do that. End quote.